Hey everybody, this is Cromar with TGN. I'm here today to bring you some more Rift coverage, and today we're looking at the Tier 2 Expert Dungeon, Abyssal Precipice. This is a boss-only run. The footage here is about 2 weeks old, but they haven't actually changed anything since then, so it's still relevant. Though my gear has improved significantly since then, so my spec here is going to alternate between full bard and full marksman. And just depending on the situation. I think I'm bard most of the time, and I'm marksman for like one fight, I believe. But anyway, so let's go on to the bosses. Kaler Andrenos. Kaylor here is the first boss of Abyssal Precipice, and honestly, he's not too bad. He's not too hard at all. He has 3 basic mechanics you have to worry about. The first one is a puddle on the ground. Don't stand in it. There you go. Perfect. Just on time. Get out of that. The second thing is a debuff he casts on a random party member that causes them to draw everyone around them in. Like it sucks them in. And so you have to get away from that part from whoever has the debuff. And the person with the debuff needs to run away from you as well. They need to be cautious of that. So if you get it, try to run away from everybody. If it sucks them in, it does damage, obviously, so that's not something you want to happen. The third thing, which is the most important thing, is his giant AoE. He casts an AoE that will just like insta-kill your whole group. To avoid it, simply line of sight it. Now, the one way that's line of sighted is to hide behind the big ice pillar, because he spawns the ice pillar, you know, conveniently for you to survive, right? Well, the word is, and we didn't take the time to test this, that the ice pillar is highly unreliable. And every time I've run this, and I've run this several times with many different groups, we found that the best way to do it was to ignore the ice pillar and run around these rocks, as you just saw. I think that strategy works much better. It's very easy. I mean, you just tank him here by the rock. As soon as he starts casting, run around. It's not hard at all to do. It's actually a lot easier than adjusting to the ice pillar, and that's not hard either, but I just highly prefer this method. And every time I've tried it, it's just made the fight just so trivial. As you see, we have Anthem of Competence up. That's the 15% Bard run speed instead of Anthem of Fervor, which is the reduction in ability costs. And you don't need the extra speed, but you don't need the Fervor either. I mean, he's not a demanding boss. He's not a DPS race. He's not tough on healing. Really, he's just, once you've negotiated that basic problem, then he's very, very easy. Now, what to do if you have someone get the debuff, the debuff that draws everyone in, at the same time that you run around. That shouldn't happen because the cast time on his AoE is so large, but I guess it could happen. I don't think it's ever happened to me, though. I've never seen that happen, so I think the way it's timed, it shouldn't happen. But if it does, you'll probably have to have whoever has a debuff run somewhere else, run around the ice pillar, run behind the stump. I believe the stump works for line of sight. It's like just like down to the left, just, you know, out of the frame here. But you know, that shouldn't happen. I wouldn't worry about that too much. If you're doing this and for some reason you keep getting unlucky with people getting the debuff at the same time as the AoE, then try to using the log, try using the pillar, but it shouldn't be a problem. Icetalon. Icetalon's the second boss. He starts out with this Falconer guy. He's not the real boss. He's just the kind of goober you have to kill first. This guy doesn't. The Falconer guy doesn't really do much. He just does a little bit of AoE here, which you don't really have to worry about. And you know, heal through it. It's very little damage. And when the boss spawns, you don't get out of combat. You have to fight him back to back. These little ads spawn. They're very weak. They're very weak. I mean, like incidental AoE will kill them. I don't even think they do much damage to the party. You can almost just ignore them. I mean, don't do that. They'll stack up and you can get a bunch of them if you do that. Just take them out leisurely and work on the boss, and don't blow through your mana just yet, because you'll want to keep it for Icetalon when he spawns. So when the Falconer gets low, Icetalon's going to spawn, and what you want to do is burn DPS, pop cooldowns, everything to make sure you kill the Falconer first. You don't have to deal with both of them. You want to kill the Falconer before Icetalon becomes active. So this is what you're saving your cooldowns for here. I'm still barding it up. If I was going marksman, as I have it on a different run, I would use all my cooldowns as soon as you see the emote for Icetalon, which is coming up anytime soon. Yeah, more ads. They just don't do much. No, this is not a hard phase by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, here we go. He's calling, so what we're gonna do is burn cooldowns, try to kill him before Icetalon spawns, which is not hard to do because when Icetalon comes down, he doesn't actually aggro right away. As you see, he's floating around, and he's gonna come flying down at us in just a second. But we're just barely gonna kill the Falconer there. Now he's on us, and the Falconer dies before he can cause too much trouble. There we go. So now we're in business. Now, what does Icetalon do? Not a lot. He does lots of crazy AoE knockbacks. There you go. I really need to get my back to a wall here. Should be out in the middle of the floating around. He's certainly harder than his cousin Sparkwing, who is the incredibly easy boss in Foul Cascade. Is it Foul Cascade? Yeah, Foul Cascade. And, you know, don't worry about too much about this fight. He does do a lot of AoE. Melee is fine. We had a melee here, as you can see. Just heal through it. Keep your back to the wall. Prepare for knockbacks. You actually can get knocked off the cliff, so don't go anywhere near the cliff, for God's sake. Don't go anywhere near the cliff. Just see where all the range is standing here is fine. Although I'm out of range, I can't stand up there as a bard. Oh, there we go. I did find it. I thought I had to go farther down. Whatever. Anyway, so this boss, as you see, is not too bad. Now that you've got him under control. I think that really the whole key to the fight is making sure Falconer is dead as soon as possible once you see him start spawning Icetalon. That's like the absolute most important thing. And once you've achieved that, there's not too much left to do. Just keep the heals up. You know, having a support healer like a Bard or a Chloromancer is a big help, of course, because as you can see from watching the health bars, every now and then everyone's health does drop pretty low. Let's see. Yeah, he just turns around and just zaps people. I don't know, he's Icetalon, but he shoots lightning. Whatever. Whatever. Now, this is a somewhat time-consuming fight since you have to kill 2 miles, but it's not too bad. There goes my Virtuoso cooldown. I'm not sure why I popped it there, maybe just because he was low and I felt like it, but we aren't in too much trouble yet. He's kind of a crazy fight though with the knockbacks. I wouldn't want to play melee here, just getting knocked around. Although it's not too bad on the healers. It's just kind of annoying. Yeah. So I remembered right though. I knew I had to move down the slope to get him in range. I know I couldn't hit him up from up there. It was just later. But as you can see, the positioning, burning Falconer, I mean, that's like the whole fight. And once you've got that, you get out under control. It's really not hard. If people have trouble with this, it's usually in the transition. It's usually dealing with both of them up at the same time for a moment, or possibly not positioning right. Knockbacks, getting knocked out of line of sight. That's a really bad one. You don't want the tank getting knocked out of line of sight of the healer ever, but it can happen here pretty easily. And as you see, the tank does get walloped pretty good, appropriately for a tier 2. The tank has to have 100 toughness. And, almost there. Come on, bird. There he goes. Yep. So that's enough of him. Majolic the Bloodwalker. Is it Majolic or Majolic? Who cares? Anyway, this is the toughest boss of the instance by, I think, a pretty large margin. As you see, I've switched to Marksman, and we had our mage switch to Chloromancer. So we've got 2 full healers for cleanses, and I'll get to that in a moment. I want to talk about the pull first. When you actually show up here, instead of seeing this blood demon thing, you see a regular guy, and when you DPS him down, he starts casting a spell called Blood Surge when he's low. And after that spell casts, he pretty much explodes and turns into this thing, and then you have to DPS this thing down. Well, you can actually get out of combat, which is why I didn't show that that part here. All you have to do is, as soon as he starts casting Blood Surge, just run away. Or if you don't, he'll spawn and kill your tank, and then you can respawn. You can wipe it, come back, and it'll just be the blood guy. But so that phase is just more of an annoyance thing. So moving on to the actual boss, this guy has, was it just two real mechanics that you have to even worry about. The first and the most important is this crystallization, as you see right, that it was just done to this guy in front of me. What this does is it traps them, traps the party member, and does a dot to them, and prevents them from acting, and you have to destroy the crystal. Now, you can still heal them through it, so if the tank gets crystal, it's not an instant wipe. God, that would make this fight impossible. No, you can still heal through it. It's just really brutal if it's on the tank and he's getting meleeed as well, but it's doable. So what you want to do is have all DPS switch to crystals immediately, and you want to hope that your DPS don't get crystallized, because you're going to have a really hard time breaking the crystals if that happens. Now, there's one other mechanic, and then I want to go to I'll talk about an alternate strat here. But let me get to the other mechanic first. It's a bleed dot, or it's not. I don't think it's technically called a bleed. It's because it's actually cleansable, and it has to be cleansed. It's really nasty. That's why we have the 2 healers. Since Bard doesn't work as a backup healer here because he can't purge, he can't cleanse, and he can't heal us. He can't spam heals on a crystallized target. With these 2 healers, they can spam heals on a crystallized target to keep them alive, and they can cleanse the blood thing. And the reason you have to have 2 is because just imagine if your healer gets crystallized and someone else has the dot. They're dead. There's no way to prevent that. What happens if the healer gets crystallized? The tank dies instantly. There's no way to prevent that. That's why you have to have 2 healers. One healer is just undoable. You cannot do it with one healer. I would be amazed to see how someone would do it with one healer. I can't even consider a way to do it with one healer. So you have to bring, before you go to Abyssal Precipice, you have to bring a second healer. It has to be, it can be another cleric, it can be a chloromancer or whatever. Just have a second healer with cleanses, and have them ready to spam heals on the tank. Or whoever needs it if someone's crystallized. But anyway, so in cases where the DPS is crystalled, basically your other DPS has to be really awesome to be able to destroy the crystal. And it's really nice if one of your healers can actually help out. Because if it's a DPS getting crystallized, then the healers have it kind of easy. Since there's 2 of them, one of them can concentrate on healing and cleansing while the other one helps to destroy the crystal. So if maybe you have like a DPS spec or a healing spec that actually has like Water Jet or something from Warden, or I don't know, I guess Chloromancer should be able to put out some damage too, to try to help the DPS get the crystals down. So you guys got to be able to adjust a lot. That's what makes this fight so hard. It's also a pretty good DPS check, because if you can't destroy crystals fast, I mean the crystals are time based, not HP based. So the longer it takes you to kill this boss, the more crystals you're going to get, and that's just going to make it harder and harder and harder for you. And that's what we had to deal with here. So I promised an alternate strategy. I discovered recently that there is a way to stop. Honestly, it's like an exploit. So I decided not to use the footage from that. This is why I'm using the old footage where we did it the honest way. But I was in with a group, and I don't know what it was. We just couldn't handle it. I guess we didn't have enough DPS, and we kept getting horribly unlucky, getting the DPS crystalled every single time. So we barely destroyed the crystal before the next one spawned, and it was just every pull was like that. It was really stupid. So what happened was we actually we found an exploit. There, you see that broken tree trunk just to the left of the boss? What we did was we line of sighted. As soon as we saw the message come up that said so-and-so Bloodwalker wants so-and-so's blood, everybody would dive behind the trunk. And the reason we did it everybody was because you had to dive behind the trunk instantly. If you started casting his spell, it would hit the person even though they were out of line of sight. And that's why I feel like there's an exploit, not intentional. Because if you're intended to line of sight it, then you should be able to go across while it's casting. But we had to go across before it started casting to actually prevent it from working. That meant that it had to be, basically you had to go behind the tree when you heard the sound. It goes bong right before an emote comes up. You don't have enough time to read it and see what name it is to see if you need to go back. If you wait that long, you get crystalled. So we perfected that, and we're able to beat this boss trivially. And I felt kind of bad. We still had to have the tank still got crystal though, so we still had to have 2 healers. But I felt kind of bad about exploiting it that way. But here in this recording, you get to see the honest method, where we just put enough DPS to burn the crystals. Renthar. Okay, Ranthar is the 4th boss here. He's refreshingly easy compared to Bloodwalker. There's really only one mechanic that really matters and some other minor stuff. The one that matters is his charge. What he'll do is he'll pick a person, and I've heard it's the person farthest away from him, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But honestly, it doesn't really matter who it is. It's just that he picks somebody and he charges them. When he hits them, he whacks them for a huge chunk of their health, and then he runs back to the tank. There he goes doing it. And then he goes back to the tank, and then he waits like really short, like 2 seconds, and then he runs and hits him again, And as you can see, he got himself a kill right away. Good job, Renthar. No, but seriously though, we battle rested, so we were able to finish the fight. But anyway, the what you got to do is when the person gets charged, they get hit first. Immediately, you got to spam heals on him. And I found that the bard healing was enough because the amount of damage you have to actually heal, but is not too bad. And I just found that I would just pop Coda of Restoration and Verse of Vitality to help keep the guy up, and it seemed to work pretty good. With of course the healer also popping a heal on there. So oops. Died from the bleed. That's the other thing. There's a bleed he puts on there. I forgot about that. But you do have to heal through that also. And that's really the whole fight. I mean, obviously there's that thing that the bad stuff. Do I really need to tell you not to stand the bad stuff? I mean, come on. It's obvious. So besides that, it's pretty much just the guy gets charged, heal them really fast before they get charged again, and you will defeat this boss. There you go. See, I got one instant heal, and then cast 2 of my heals, and that was plenty. I don't think you necessarily need a bard here. I'm sure one healer could handle it. It's not too demanding. But, you know, people always appreciate a bard. A healer always appreciates the bard's help. Helps keep people up, helps keep his mana, restore mana with Verse of Joy and stuff like that. So, but anyway, there's not much else to say about this fight. I'm just kind of rambling now. As you see, it's just repeating the same couple things. I get charged, I get healed up, I get charged again. I basically decided to pop my Virtuoso at a bad time when I didn't have my motifs up. It's an important part of playing a bard. You have to make sure that you use Virtuoso when you know you have 15 seconds left on motifs. That way they don't run out in the middle of it. Because if you have to recast your motifs, you waste part of your Virtuoso, and that really sucks. And leaving your motifs down is not an option because the tank needs the 5%. Everybody needs the DPS bonus, and well, you could probably get away with just those 3. And there you go, that's all it is to it. Calyx the Ancient. So after listening to a speech for like 6 years, this guy spawns, and this is fun. Okay, this is the spinning laser boss. Alright, he's not, I wouldn't consider this guy difficult. He's really not, because he's basically one concept repeated constantly. But he does require you to actually pay attention to what you're doing. You have to be on your toes. You can't lapse. You have to maintain concentration. And he takes a while to kill. This is a very long kill, and I'm going to hopefully cut out some of it. But it takes a long time to kill this guy because, well, first we lose somebody, but that's not the big thing. The other reason is that we're constantly moving, and when you're constantly moving, I mean, it just sucks, you know? You can barely put DPS on the boss with all the motion. It's not as bad with a bard because most of my abilities are instant cast, everything except cadence, really, so I just move up, cast cadence, and then move up again, and while I'm moving, I'm casting either power chord or my motifs or my finisher. But if you're playing most classes, especially a mage, god, then you are, or DPS cleric even, then it's really difficult. But let me talk about the other stuff going on besides the obvious, the lasers, you know, that you're not supposed to touch. He does cast a freeze on the ground. It's that blue, gigantic blue circle right there. It doesn't take very long at all, and before it finishes, so it doesn't. It's not like you have to sit there and wait for it. But after it finishes, an ice pillar it'll basically freeze somebody if they stand in there, and the laser will then kill them if they're standing there long enough. So don't get frozen. It's a way for him to trap you and put you in a laser, so you don't want that to happen. The other thing he does, which is really nasty, is he does a thing that knocks you down at like 30% of your health. I forget the exact percentage, but it's really low. And when that happens, there's a great chance that he might finish off the tank. So the healer has to be ready on the ball with an instant cast to get the tank up every time that happens. And this is where a bard is just really awesome. First of all, because it's such a long fight, the bard is just great for adding longevity to the healer. But also because when he hits the whole group with that AoE that takes them low, there's no real emergency to get them back up as long as you do it in a fairly timely manner. And the bard is great at that. The bard can do that for free. And that gives the healer leeway to keep the tank alive and keep themselves alive by not standing in the laser, while you're Bard is taking care of the rest of the healing, and that really makes the Bard an asset here. So, highly recommended to bring a Bard. Very highly recommended. But yeah, you can see where you can have a near wipe really easily. I mean, he knocks everyone's health down low. I mean, that's just a invitation to own the tank. I highly recommend not bringing melee here. Playing melee on this fight is a nightmare. It just makes it harder, unnecessarily harder. I mean, if you really want to, you want to prove how awesome you are, then go ahead. But it's just unnecessary, totally unnecessary to play melee in this fight. It's much better to switch to ranged, and that way you have a lot more room to walk around. You don't have to worry about shit like that either. Having the whirlpool spawn right on top of him. So close that you can't, you can't even attack him at all if you're in melee, and he does it constantly. But that's also the reality for the tank. The tank has to be very, very careful with his motion. He has to stay close to the in melee range of the boss because you don't want to move the boss. It'll fuck with everyone. But then he also has to at the same time not touch the damn lasers. So it's very, very hard for the tank here. But of course, if you played a tank, you're kind of used to that kind of. Having it tougher than everybody else. That's the point. That's like part of being a tank, right? So anyway, we're getting real close on this guy, and it's going pretty smoothly except for the dead guy. I think we battle res him. He died again. I'm not sure why he died. I think he was melee, so I think he just got hit by the lasers, but I'm not positive. But everything else seems to be going swimmingly. This kill wasn't as long as I remembered. Actually, I thought this was longer, but it's still pretty brutal. And there's not much you can do to speed it up except have all range DPS. Oh, that was a close one. I think there's an even closer one near the end of the fight here where I was sure the tank was going to die. So definitely on edge the whole time. Very fun too, by the way. I mean, I really like this kind of fight. I don't like the kind of fights where you have a couple gimmicks and you just repeat those. Over and over again every time you see an emote or whatever. I like this one where it's just constant worry about all this shit going on at the same time, and you have to constantly be on your toes. There's no downtime. There's no break. You just go. Keep going in a circle. Keep going in a circle. Don't stand in that. Don't stand in that. Oh shit, heal. That's fun. That's fun. Let me talk about theory here. This is something I haven't actually tried doing, but on one of my runs, somebody said they were able to actually click those little wisps on the end of the laser, and I just saw that there's like a name over it, and that reminded me. I have not tried attacking them, but if you are doing this fight and it's going really, really well, and you're really bored, and you have the guts, try clicking on one of those and see if you can attack it. Just give it a shot. I don't know what happens. I hate to think that there's an easy way out of this fight to destroy them and then not have to worry about the lasers, but that would be really boring. That would be disappointing. I think that was that spot right there. The tank got really low and didn't get healed right away. The group got healed, but the tank was still low. I think that was when I thought it was over. Jesus. Got really slow at the end here. I think the mage out of mana. I think that might be because the mage is out of mana. It's hard to tell though, because we put it in raid window to make it easier for the debuffers to see what's going on. But now you can't see mana. Almost there. I'm actually using my combo points for DPS sometimes here. Just try to finish this guy off before we all, someone fucks up. But as long as everybody's at almost full health. Almost there. I'm at the edge of my seat. Something's gonna go horribly wrong. Oh, there's a damage at the last second. Ah! Yeah, I love this fight. Every time I had to do this fight, it's always hectic. There we go. Whew. Oh, that was stressful. Just watching that. All alone, playing it. But anyway. So, that was fun. I hope you had fun watching that with me. I hope the strategies here help you out. The Bloodwalker one is definitely the hardest, and that you can tell from the fact that I was actually talking about strategy the whole time instead of just like bullshitting or trying to fill in time like it was on this guy. But fun, easy, honestly, fairly easy tier 2. You do have to pass that DPS check on the Bloodwalker, and you have to pass the noob check on the Calyx the Ancient. But other than that, it's actually, I would say, the easiest of all the tier 2s. And if you're trying to break into tier 2s and you know you got the hit, you need 100 hit, 100 focus. If that's for spellcasters, you need 100 toughness if you're a tank. As long as you meet those stats, give it a whirl, man. You'd be surprised. You don't need a whole lot of gear. I was pretty under-geared here and did fine. Obviously, I was barding most of it, but even when I was on marksman, my DPS was plenty enough for the crystals. So, that's all for Abyssal Precipice. Thanks for watching. This is Cromar with TGN.